Previously in Ouija Story, on a cold winter night, we played with a Ouija board for the first time, thinking it would be fun. But the atmosphere quickly became strange and unsettling. After breaking the board, we thought it was over, but it was only the beginning. Weeks later, my friend, usually full of life, became strangely silent and distant. One night, he behaved in a frightening manner, suggesting that a malevolent entity had followed him since our Ouija experience. That night, I realized we had opened a door to the unknown, and the consequences were real and terrifying. Now the story picks up where we left off. The taxi arrives. We get on board and finally begin our journey home. Remember, he is my neighbor. After a few minutes of driving with my eyes fixed on the road, I turn to him. He seems to be in the same position he was while waiting for the taxi, on the street near our friend's house. I gently shake him and call him by his name, asking if he feels better. When he looks up at me, he starts laughing in a strange way. This catches the driver's attention, who asks if everything is okay. I tell him it's nothing serious. That's when my neighbor starts insulting him without provocation. My reaction is immediate. I call him by his name again. He turns his gaze to me and, with a strange laugh, says, "Do you still think I'm your friend?" Then something incredible happens. In a second, his face transforms, his features change. A cold shiver runs down my spine. Suddenly, his face returns to normal, and I see my neighbor. The moment our eyes meet, he says, "Don't let him play with your mind." The next second, his insane laughter starts anew. A feeling of panic overwhelms me. He starts insulting himself again. Then while laughing, he says, "I won't let him talk to you tonight." My heart races. Fear mixes with confusion. I understand that this laughing, insane, strange face that makes me uncomfortable is something else. The taxi driver gets angry. Not understanding the situation, he decides to stop and drop us off on the side of the road. I apologize to the driver on behalf of my neighbor. Shame and embarrassment take over me. I explain that he is not well, that he is not in his normal state. I beg him to continue the journey and ignore the insults. The rest of the journey takes place in a strange atmosphere of insults and laughter. I don't understand anything. I feel bad, with chills and a persistent cold. I'm scared. This fear is familiar to me. I experienced it a few weeks ago before moving. The broken Ouija board, thrown in the trash of our old apartment, comes to mind. I remember hearing someone say, "Oh no, who broke this Ouija board? Did you follow the rules? Did you say goodbye?" At the time, I found those words absurd and didn't believe them. Now doubt settles in me. Until that night, I had put aside this experience, but now I am no longer so sure. What if this board had a link to my neighbor's paranormal behavior? After all, it was he who broke it that night. I think back to the cold I felt and the movement of the pointer when we asked if our friend could leave. I remember the invisible pressure that kept our fingers frozen in place. That cold feeling, it's the same that I feel now, in front of this thing's face. When we finally arrive at our destination, I take out my wallet to pay the taxi, but my neighbor beats me to it. He takes his out, pays by credit card, then when he retrieves the card, he starts laughing demonically and breaks it in two. My neighbor's irrational behavior worries and scares me. Anxiety rises within me. I don't know what to think anymore. He acts normally, then in a second, does completely irrational things. At that moment, I just wanted to find the calm of my apartment and forget this inexplicable and frightening evening. The quiet evening I so desperately wanted was not going to go as I wished. Arriving next to the house, still worried, I tell him, "Go to sleep, it will pass." He starts laughing and replies, "No one will sleep tonight.